The conference was supposed to be the biggest opportunity of my career. Instead, it began with a hotel clerk nervously apologizing, one room key sliding across the counter, and my office rival leaning close enough to whisper, "Looks like we're sharing a bed." Everyone in the lobby laughed, assuming the awkward situation would lead to an unforgettable romance or a workplace disaster. None of them knew that before sunrise the next morning, we would be standing together in a hospital hallway, praying for a complete stranger, and that one impossible night would change not only the way we saw each other, but the way we lived for the rest of our lives. For 3 years, I had worked as a project manager for a technology company based in Chicago. My name was Ethan Carter, and if there was one person who constantly challenged me, it was Olivia Brooks. She was brilliant, confident, and somehow always one step ahead of everyone else. Whenever promotions were discussed, our names came up together. Whenever sales numbers were announced, we competed for first place. Whenever our boss praised someone, the other secretly worked harder the next day. Neither of us hated each other. We simply refused to lose. When our company selected us to represent the team at a leadership conference in Denver, everyone joked that the organizers should seat us on opposite sides of the room to avoid a silent competition over who took better notes. The trip itself was surprisingly peaceful. We argued over coffee. We debated presentations. We criticized each other's playlists during the drive from the airport. But beneath all the teasing was mutual respect neither of us wanted to admit. Late that evening, we finally reached the historic downtown hotel reserved by our company. The lobby buzzed with conference attendees dragging suitcases across polished marble floors. The receptionist frowned as she typed. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Due to an unexpected booking error, every room in the hotel is full." She looked back and forth between us. "We only have one room remaining." Olivia folded her arms. "There has to be another hotel. We've already called every property within 20 miles. Nothing." The receptionist lowered her voice. "It has one king-size bed." The silence lasted almost 10 seconds. Then Olivia leaned toward me with the tiniest smile. "Looks like we're sharing a bed." I nearly laughed despite myself. "We're definitely not." Instead, I asked for extra blankets. That night became an exercise in creative problem-solving. I insisted on sleeping on the floor. Olivia argued that I would wake up unable to walk before our presentations. She offered to take the floor instead. Eventually, we built a makeshift divider using chairs, blankets, and the room's ironing board. It looked ridiculous. Neither of us slept much. Around 2 in the morning, I noticed Olivia quietly staring out the window. "You okay?" She hesitated. "My dad's in a nursing home." I had never heard her mention family before. "He's getting worse. You should be with him." She sighed. "I can't afford to lose this promotion." For the first time, my rival didn't look competitive. She looked exhausted. I realized I'd spent years assuming confidence meant someone had an easy life. Sometimes it simply meant they refused to let others see them struggle. The next morning, our conference began. Everything went according to schedule until lunch. As dozens of attendees filled the ballroom, an elderly hotel employee suddenly collapsed near the buffet. People froze. Several stepped backward. Someone shouted for security. Without thinking, Olivia rushed toward him. I followed. The man wasn't breathing normally. Years earlier, I'd completed CPR certification through a volunteer program. My hand started compressions while Olivia called 911, comforted the frightened staff, and cleared space around us. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, paramedics arrived. They loaded him onto a stretcher. As they wheeled him away, one young waitress burst into tears. "That's my grandfather." Olivia wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "He's going to keep fighting." The waitress whispered something that caught both of us off guard. He kept working because he couldn't afford his medical bills. That sentence stayed with us all afternoon. Our presentations suddenly felt insignificant. That evening, instead of celebrating with executives, Olivia asked if I'd drive her to the hospital. We found the elderly employee recovering in intensive care. His daughter sat alone in the waiting room. She explained that insurance covered only part of his treatment. The family had already sold their second car. The granddaughter worked 2 jobs while attending college. Despite everything, they still worried more about missing work than about themselves. On the drive back to the hotel, neither of us spoke. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. We spend every day competing over bonuses. I nodded. And that family is wondering how they'll pay for tomorrow. The next morning, we skipped breakfast with executives. Instead, we quietly approached conference organizers. Then our co-workers. Then attendees from other companies. No speeches. No pressure. Just one simple question. Would you help a hotel employee who spent decades helping strangers? Within hours, people began donating. $20. $50. $100. A CEO anonymously contributed $5,000. The hotel manager matched part of the donations. Even the coffee vendor placed a jar beside the register. By sunset, thousands of dollars had been raised. But something even more meaningful happened. Volunteers offered transportation. A retired nurse volunteered free home visits after discharge. An attorney offered financial guidance. Someone arranged grocery deliveries. Another company promised the granddaughter a paid internship. Kindness spread faster than any marketing campaign I'd ever seen. When the conference organizers learned what had happened, they invited the family onto the stage during the closing ceremony. The ballroom stood in applause. The elderly employee, now recovering well enough to attend in a wheelchair, struggled to hold back tears. I spent 42 years opening doors for guests, he said softly. I never imagined so many people would open theirs for me. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Afterward, our CEO approached Olivia and me. I've reviewed your presentations. We both waited. They were excellent. He smiled. But that's not why I'm proud today. He looked toward the family surrounded by strangers who had become friends. Leadership isn't measured by quarterly reports. It's measured by what people become because of your example. Weeks later, back in Chicago, promotion announcements arrived. The company surprised everyone. Instead of choosing one manager over the other, they created a new leadership division and asked Olivia and me to run it together. Months earlier, I would have hated sharing responsibility. Now it felt perfectly natural. Competition had taught us excellence. Compassion taught us purpose. Our partnership transformed the office culture. Instead of departments competing against each other, teams began sharing resources. Volunteer days became company traditions. Employees started emergency funds for coworkers facing hardships. Mentorship programs expanded. Annual charity drives doubled. Small acts created larger ones. One snowy afternoon nearly a year later, Olivia and I received a handwritten letter. It came from the granddaughter. She had graduated college debt-free. Her grandfather was healthy enough to attend her ceremony. She had accepted a full-time position with the company that first met her during the fundraiser. At the bottom of the letter she wrote something I'll never forget. You thought you were saving one family. You actually changed generations. I folded the letter carefully and smiled. Whenever people hear the story, they usually laugh about the beginning. The hotel only had one bed? They expect an awkward romantic comedy. Instead, they hear about strangers becoming family. About rivals becoming partners. About a hotel employee discovering his life mattered to hundreds of people he had never truly met. Looking back, the Overbooked hotel wasn't a mistake. It was the unexpected moment that placed two stubborn coworkers in exactly the right place to discover that success means very little if you climb the ladder alone. Because promotions eventually fade. Awards collect dust. Business trips are forgotten. But kindness has a remarkable way of traveling farther than we ever do, quietly changing lives we'll never fully see. And sometimes, the most unforgettable journey doesn't begin with the perfect room. It begins with a single unexpected key, one shared challenge, and two people who choose compassion over competition.